This video is sponsored by Pixonic, the creators of an awesome mobile game called War Robots. If you've seen our shows on the mammoth corporations whose long arms extend into just about all corners of the planet, you'll understand the sheer size of these businesses and why we sometimes compare them to countries in themselves. You'll also know that many of these companies come from the USA. This includes tech giants such as Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Google, but also the businesses lining the shelves of our kitchens and bathrooms such as PepsiCo and Johnson & Johnson. Between the burger behemoth McDonald's and retail giant Walmart, they employ about 4 million people worldwide. That's roughly the population of Moldova, or just less than half the population of Israel, working at just 2 American companies. Well, today we are going to compare this successful capitalist powerhouse as one entity in this episode of the Infographics Show, If the United States Was a Company. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. Before we get started, let's just take a moment to talk about War Robots. War Robots is a mobile game which we've been playing for months now. The game features super fun robots that are specialized in different ways depending on how you might want to play the game. It's a 6 vs 6 tactical multiplayer game with amazing 3D graphics. We generally get bored of games pretty easily, but the reason we've been playing this game for so long now is because of the constant content updates and all the new cool stuff. Over 70 million people have installed the game so far. Download War Robots via the link in the description and get our special massive bonus of GI Platoon robot with a unique skin, 4 Punisher machine guns, 100 gold, and 400,000 silver. Now, let's get back to the main part of our video. First, we should have a look at who is working in this company. It would consist of around 325 million employees, 81% of whom would be city slickers. There would be slightly more female workers than male workers, and over the age of 85, there would be double the amount of women than men. About 1/4 of our workforce would be under the age of 21, while the median age of our worker would be 37.8. Diversity is a huge issue these days, so we should have a look at the ethnicity of our workforce. We wouldn't be very diverse at all, actually, with around 76.9% of employees identifying as white. Many of them would tell you they have English, German, Irish, Scottish, Scotch-Irish, and Welsh ancestors, along with many other European nations. Hispanic and Latino Americans would make up 17.8% of our workforce, and 13.3% of our employees would identify as Black or African American. 6% of people would say they are Asian American, about 3.2% Middle Eastern American, and less than 1% would identify as Native American. If America was a company, about 4.3% of adults that could work would not be working right now if we look at present unemployment rates. This doesn't really make any sense in view of this show, so let's just say these folks are presently on sabbatical. Our company would be the richest in the world with a total earnings of $18.57 trillion if we take net profits as the same as the GDP. Per person, that means $57,466.79. There would, however, be a huge inequality gap in our company. According to one Berkeley economist featured in The Atlantic in 2016, just 1% of our company would earn as much as 20% as the rest of our employees. In fact, some of our employees would be having a pretty hard time subsisting in the lower ranks of our complex company. The Census Bureau in 2017 did, however, report some good news, and that was that the number of us living below the poverty line has decreased lately to just 12.7%, or just over 40 million people. The employees hit the hardest would be Black and Hispanic, while white and Asian employees would, on average, be doing the best. The Census Bureau explains that US poverty does not have to mean living in a tin shack and barbecuing rats, but more not having sufficient money to live a stable and healthy life. It put that at a yearly income of $24,257 for a family of 4. The worst off of us American employees on average would live in Alabama, where 19.2% of employees would live below the poverty line. But how are we making money? First of all, to take care of everyone in our company and keep the infrastructure intact, to defend us from other large companies, we have to save money for our yearly budget. America, the company, would spend about $3.9 trillion on that budget. Most of this we would get from income tax, payroll tax, and a bit more from excise tax and corporate tax. This should ensure most of us against hardships and make sure our country stays in one piece. We will actually overspend, so we will have to borrow a bit of cash. To accrue this massive amount of tax money, we need industry. So what kind of things make cash for company America? Well, one good thing for us is that we are making a strong currency. The dollar is the world's reserve currency because we have the most stable company on the planet. Just having this powerful currency is a bonus in itself to our company. As one economist summed it up, in short, US firms get easier access to capital because of the dollar's reserve status. Sticking to making money out of working with money, the banks are a big industry in our company. CNN, one of our largest media organizations, reported in 2017 that banking profits were the highest in a long time at $171.3 billion, mainly because our company CEO, Donald Trump, relaxed regulations. Banks make money by lending money and charging our company employees interest and also lots of fees. NPR reports that that's only half the profits, with investments making the rest of the money for banks. Finance and insurance in total makes up 8% of our GDP at $1.159 trillion. But banking and finance is only the fourth largest industry in our company economy. Our biggest business is real estate, which includes renting and leasing. This makes up 13% of our GDP, or $2.2 trillion. Next is professional and business services, which covers many of the businesses we deal with day to day. This is about 12% of our GDP, or $2.098 trillion. In third place comes state and local government profits. This makes up 9.1% of our GDP, or $1.5 trillion. We know the next is finance and banking, and the following five in order are healthcare and social assistance, manufacturing of durable goods, wholesale trade, retail trade, manufacturing of non-durable goods, and in 10th place, information. This includes publishing on all the platforms you can think of. Even if these are the biggest industries, that doesn't mean they are the most profitable. If you've seen our shows on businesses that break the records in bringing in the bucks, you'll know that tech, or IT, is leading the way. In fact, it's said Apple is well on its way to becoming the first company with a value of $1 trillion. You won't be surprised then to know that our IT services sector is the second most profitable business we have, but in first place, it is the health and pharmaceutical industry. The companies with the highest net margins were generic pharmaceutical companies in first place, investment managing in second, tobacco in third, and major pharmaceutical companies fourth. It seems that health is where we really know how to make the big money. But where do we all work? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, things have certainly changed over the last 100 years, with not many of us now working in the mining industry as we used to back in the day. It's too complex to break down into actual jobs, as there are literally thousands upon thousands of different jobs, but as of 2016, the biggest sectors in America the company are as follows: education and services, in the first spot by a long shot. Second is the wholesale and retail trade. Third is professional business services. Fourth is manufacturing. Fifth is leisure and hospitality. Sixth is finance services. Seventh is construction. Eighth is just classed as other services. Ninth as public admin. And IT is in 10th place. So who is our favorite company to do business with? That would be the European Union, which we might call a conglomeration of entities as it contains lots of companies. The latest US government stats tell us that in total, trade between the EU and US was $1.1 trillion. Our next biggest trading partner is China, although we import $462 billion from China and only export about a quarter of that amount. We have almost equal import and export amounts with the next two countries on our trading friends list, and they are Canada and Mexico. Do we have much competition? Well, China has just been put ahead of us in terms of the world's largest economy, although some experts disagree. Even so, most predict it will soon happen. Will China's growing computer hardware industry ever catch up to ours? Will India's IT services make bigger ripples in the pond? Can countries in Asia and Europe mount a challenge to the USA's huge pharmaceutical industry? More importantly, when are us average workers going to get a pay raise? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other video called Illegal Things That You Do Every Day. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time!